State, New Mexico.
Well, do you want it? Do you want it? I can give it to you.
We swam across.
All right, so
the team swam across the bay to get to San Jose from San Francisco.
This is the 27th Mountain West opener for New Mexico. The game is obviously 7:05 on FS1. Also, you guys all saw we're on FS1 again next week. So if you want one of those, I can give it to you. The last time, this is New Mexico. We've already established some history this year. So the next piece of history for you to get, Coach, is nobody on our staff was alive the last time we beat San Jose in San Jose, including me. It happened in 1969. That's the last time it happened.
How many games is that? Not many games, or like?
Not a ton of games. I think it's 0-6, 0-6-1. We had a tie in 1971, which obviously cannot happen.
That's what I was looking for.
So there you go. All right. With that, Coach, take it away.
Very excited to get back out there. Again, want to thank our fans once again. What a great atmosphere in University Stadium, and that was so awesome to see that great sellout. I think that was a great day for the whole state of New Mexico. But now back to conference play. Very excited to get into conference play. I have our first game against San Jose State. A lot of respect for Coach Ken. He's done a great job there. I think this team is better than their record indicates. Again, they were picked to finish third in our conference preseason. They really had 3 games that could have gone either way. I think they do a really good job at quarterback and receiver. Number 5, Walker Agate does a good job. They'll bring in the backup quarterback to do some running. He's good. Danny Scudero, number 10, is fast as heck. Can get vertical. Their O-line does a solid job, and then I think their front 7 is very good. Jordan Pollard stands out to me. Faga, number 50. Billy, number 45. Those guys are good players. So it's going to be a great challenge. We got to play our best football this Friday night.
They call it the spread and shred. What challenges does this offense present for you guys?
Yeah, I think it's really Coach Stutzman, their OC. It's kind of like a disciple of the run and shoot. Mouse Davis. Way back to that thing. They do a lot of routes where they're going to read your leverage and can make adjustments. So they're kind of when they call a play, like they're really not hoping to get a certain coverage and it's only good against that coverage. They have built-in things. They rep so much that if the leverage is here, they're going to break in. If the leverage is here, they're going to break out. So it's difficult because you really can't take away plays. They have a bunch of adjustments. They do a really good job of getting the ball out. I think they have giving up 5 sacks like in 4 games. They have very wide splits, so it's tough to win off the edges and get home. And then they do just enough with their run and screen game to keep you honest. Again, Walker hasn't been the biggest running threat, but he's gotten them some tough yards on some quarterback draws and things. So I think their system is very well set up to neutralize what was good for us last year, getting home a lot with our D-line.
You mentioned it too. I mean, you look just at the records: 1-3, 3-1. That doesn't really paint the picture because they're a couple kicks away from being 2-2, 3-1. Frankly, how are you kind of communicating that to the team? Like, hey, we can't overlook it.
Well, we're underdogs. We're underdogs in this game. This team is picked 3rd in the conference. We're picked 11th. This team is a team that's been to a bowl game 3 years in a row. So I think this team, has got our attention. And again, conference games are bigger. If you're a group of 5 team, you really don't really have a realistic chance of winning a national championship, and the conference championship you can win. So we got to try to take advantage because the games up to this point do nothing towards conference.
Coach, the preseason predictions don't really look like what's taking place right now. So they stay in as well as our Air Force as well. Mexico, Hawaii, Utah State, a little bit better. Is the Mountain West just completely wide open for him?
Yeah, I just think the current landscape of college football makes preseason predictions a lot harder than it used to be. You used to have you had 20 seniors graduating and 20 new freshmen, and everybody else was the same. I think you had a lot better idea of who's coming back. Now with so many new players, that I was glad. The Big Sky, you had to do like coaches' preseason predictions here, where the coaches didn't have to do it because I don't even know where you start. There's so many new players. How do you judge people? And we have 4 new staffs in our league, so I just think it's very difficult to make those preseason predictions accurate. You look at Arizona State last year was picked last in the Big 12 preseason and made the CFP.
And both teams are coming off what could be called a pretty good rivalry game from Stanford and Mexico State. It's hard to call a game like that with so much
do think it's a challenge. Whether you have a big win or a tough loss, I was encouraged how we practiced yesterday. I thought we had a very good first day of the week. Our schedules moved up a little bit. Today would be really telling. This is the only day we're going to practice in pads all week. So I like the early reports then, but no, that is certainly a challenge and something we're trying to prepare our players for. Because really, the big games are made upon themselves. The more you win, the bigger games get, and the more big games you plan through the year. So hopefully, we're not a team that's just going to have one or two big games a year. That hopefully we'll be working this program to where there's 7 or 8 big games a year.
Obviously, this is your first Mountain West game with New Mexico. You're at Idaho, you're in success going against Mountain West. So can you just talk about kind of what it's like to prepare for going against Mountain West teams?
I'm 2-0 in Mountain West games, so I don't want to screw that up. I just think conference games in general, there's a little bit more familiarity. Certainly, playing a team from California, I don't know exactly how many, but we have probably over 10 players from California on our roster, so I'm sure there's guys on our team who played high school football either with or against guys on the San Jose State team. We recruit a lot of the same areas, so you see these coaches on the road. You have familiarity with them. I think a lot more than when you play a team like Michigan, who we don't do a ton of recruiting in the Midwest. So, we didn't play them last year. When's the last time we played? 23?
2 years ago, yeah.
Yeah. So, we don't have the familiarity of playing them last year, but conference games, I think, always have just a little added intensity to them.
19 California.
Coach, New Mexico State really sold out on the run on Saturday, and eventually you're going to have to make some big plays in the passing game, and you did. Jack Lane had a great game, 4 touchdowns. You talk a little bit about his performance on Saturday.
I thought Jack was outstanding. I thought great decision making. Thought it was his best game of the year. I think he's played his best football. I mean, these might be the best 4 games he's played in his college career so far this season. So I think he's playing at a really high level. I think we're leaning on him. One of those deep plays we checked to later in the game. That was something we put in the game, and that stuff's not easy to do. Like to all of a sudden put in a play you haven't repped all week and execute it at a high level. But Jack's so smart, we were able to do that. He's played outstanding. I thought Keegan and Sean Miller both stepped up and really had outstanding games. And that's good because I knew that was coming, that a team that was really going to challenge. And there was times where they put 9 guys in the box and it was 2-on-2 on the outside, and you have to make people pay. I still want to run the ball better than we did last week, but I think that can certainly throw a pause to people thinking about doing that in the future, selling out to stop the run. But credit to New Mexico State. I think they did a good job of stopping the run. And again, if I were them, I'd probably rather lose that game getting thrown on than running on based on what we had showed in the last game.
Building off what Bill said, coming off an emotional win, you came off an emotional victory at UCLA. You said that you felt like New Mexico State played a little harder than you in the first half. Coming into this game, do you feel like you have to educate the players on that, or does that experience plus this being your first conference game compare with something?
Well, I think the education is that anybody in our conference, if we're, anybody in our conference is going to be, in the same relative pool of talent. Now, obviously, maybe a team like Boise would say has been a little bit more talented than the rest of the teams, but everybody else is in the same neighborhood. So certainly, if you let any team that is very similar to you talent-wise play harder than you, you put yourself at a great disadvantage. So I think that's something that we talked about, just the tempo and the physicality, and I think it's just understanding too that we've been a bad program. We haven't had a winning season in 10 years. When you're a losing team, a lot of times you don't get other people's best shot because they take you lightly. When you're a good team, you get everybody's best shot. They're excited to play against you. They're fired up. I think we definitely got New Mexico State's best shot, and we have to embrace that. I think that's something that the team has to understand. That maybe last year we were able to win some games sneaking up on people because Washington State or somebody takes you lightly. Well, you've got a winning record with 3-1. You're going to get people's best shot. And this team's going to be. I told this team's going to be desperate. I mean, you don't want to start 1-4 if you're going to go to a bowl game. And those guys have gone to 3 straight bowl games. I haven't been to a bowl game since like a long time ago, 2002. But I still remember that they're great. So I want to go to a bowl game. So we're going to get this team's best shot for sure.
So you have a short week this week. I know you just went through that with UCLA. So from an operational standpoint, how much easier does that make this week, just from the success you had handling the short week?
Yeah, I think it was good. That was had one game last year on a short week, but that was, we were playing a team twice in the same year, so that really made our preparation a lot better because you knew a lot of the scouting report, you knew their personnel, you knew their base schemes. So certainly I do think our plan for UCLA was a little bit of a hypothesis. I didn't have a lot of proof and evidence that was a great plan, but I think the way we played, I came away thinking, yeah, that was a pretty good plan. So there's a few little tweaks, but it's very, very similar schedule and itinerary to what we had with our practice and how we practiced at UCLA week. So I do think that makes it a little easier knowing the routine for the players.
Coach, there was so much uncertainty coming into the season, you pointed out, because new players, new staff, long string of history of not winning with the previous regimes in this program. 3-1, the energy has been built not just locally but nationally. Do you believe that you've established a level of certainty now where the best you played is what people should expect from you?
Yeah, and here's what I'd say. I think we're off to a good start. Do I think we're never going to ever lose a game again while I'm the head coach here? Probably not. We guys got to focus on keep getting better. I think we definitely are establishing that great things can be done here. We can sell out the stadium. We can beat Power 4 teams on the road. Now we got to prove that we can go win a bunch of conference games. And I do think what I got to keep working on with our team is we got to keep working so that our consistency improves. And I don't think it's possible to always play your absolute best, but you need to make sure, to me, great teams, their bad days are still pretty damn good. And that's what we got to keep working at, and you want to make sure that you may not always be at your best, but you're near your best when you're off a little bit. And I think that's what we got to keep striving, and that really comes down to how you prepare. And I talked to the team about our championship behavior in all areas of your life. We just got to keep improving from that.
Coach, last year the Lobos through 4 games allowed 179 points. This year only 86 points through 4 games. Is this the kind of defense that you envisioned when you were putting the pieces together?
Yeah, you got to play great defense, and I think Coach Nowinski, I give him a lot of credit. I really had a lot of belief in him and what he could do with our defense, and certainly just when you looked at the statistical profile last year, that was the area that had the most room for improvement. And you knew some of the numbers were going to be tough to replicate. I knew we weren't going to probably run the ball for a greater average than last year because we weren't going to have a running quarterback who rushes for 1,000 yards like we had last year. So, but I certainly, to me, when you're taking over a program and you want to get better, you're looking at where can we improve, where can we make a big jump. And I certainly thought defensively was one of those areas. We had 9 sacks last game. Last year the team didn't have many sacks the whole year, right? 12 games. 11 sacks in 12 games. So I think we've certainly improved there, and I credit Coach Nowinski. And I do think this is something I took from Coach Alvarez, and I was with Coach Nowinski with Coach Alvarez. Alvarez used to always say, when you go on the road, you got to pack your special teams, your kicking game. He used to always say kicking game, not special teams, but your defense and your kicking game. And I think even when I was a player and he said that, I really didn't totally understand it, but it's easier to play those units on the road. Big crowd noise affects your offense the most. So I do think you can, to win on the road, you like to lean on your defense and special teams because the stadium's not loud when your defense is out there on the road. It's not necessarily tougher to play defense on the road like it can be, tougher at a Michigan or the Oregon to play really good offense. Or you see Oregon at Penn State last weekend, and they did a nice job. But happy with where our defense is at. I think we can keep improving, and I think this will be a good challenge and test for us because you might say our defense is performance where we were the most leaky this year might have been Idaho State, and this offense is probably the closest to Idaho State with better players and a better quarterback who's a veteran and faster receiver. So this will be a good test for us.
And Keegan Johnson going over 100 yards, scoring a touchdown. Can we expect him to be a vocal point of this offense going forward?
That's why we recruited him. That's why we brought him here. I really saw him being a guy who was a 1,000-yard receiver and our leading guy, and awesome to see. So proud of him. I think that was his career high yardage-wise. He had 7 catches a few times, and we'll be leaning on him. And again, I think hopefully we can be a offense who can be very good throwing the ball and running the ball as the year goes on, which really makes you tough to defend.
You touched on it a little bit earlier, but defensively they got 2 pretty good linebackers in Pollard and Latu. What stands out about this San Jose defense? offense?
I think they like to attack. I mean, they like to pressure you. I think they got a good blitz package. They're not afraid to, if you're an empty, they're not afraid to bring 6. They're not afraid to bring, 7 guys if you have a back in the backfield. I think they're probably their best when they're getting pressure on the quarterback, more so than when they sit back. They do a good job mixing up though, because they'll bring, they'll blitz 7 sometimes, but they'll also drop 8 and rush 3. So they do a good job mixing it up. They play 4 down and 3 down. There's a slight tendency based on the personnel you're in, but it's not absolute. So we better make sure if we're calling a play out of 11 personnel that it's good against the 4 down looks, it's good against their 3 down looks. I think their multiplicity and just their athleticism, especially their front 7, stands out to me.
And we gave obviously 9 sacks, if you're going to give them a lot of attention. We gave the pass rush a lot of attention on Saturday. I don't think we gave the secondary probably its due attention. What did you see out of the secondary on Saturday?
I think we played solid. I still think we got to, we ended up probably giving up our most explosive passes of the year. So I do think we got to continue to improve in that area. Now, the positive side is they were, a lot of probably 20 to 25-yard passes. They weren't over the head, touchdowns for 50. But I do want to see that reduced because, we had so many plays that were no gain or nothing in that game that if we lost yards, that if we could have, cut that from whatever it was, 8 to 4 or something, that really would have made an impact to the game.
Yeah, a ton of snaps for McBean on Saturday too. How are you seeing him kind of grow into that role?
I think he's doing a nice job, and everything's learning. You got to teach and grow, and he made some mistakes. He was in man coverage on that one trick play and came out of it, but that's learning. Again, that's experience. That's us doing a great job teaching him. I said right away off that play, hey, we can't jump him for that. That's a freshman mistake. And we got to keep encouraging him and teaching him and growing, and he'll learn from that rep, and probably he'll never have that mistake for the next 3 years. So I think he's playing at a high level, and we'll need him this week because I think the secondary is critical in a week like this.
You talked about it a little bit earlier too. What does Egan do well here?
Strong arm, accurate, gets the ball out quick. So kind of the full package there with his arm. He's not, I don't think he's quite the athlete that Nico or the quarterback from Michigan is, but I think arm talent wise and decision making, we really got to do a good job just mixing up stuff against him, because I think he's really good of figuring out you're in man coverage and they have man beaters in this offense. Figuring out you're in zone and they have zone beaters in this offense. So we've got to try to have some confusion where he doesn't always know what we're in, because if he knows what we're in, he's going to know where to go with the ball with the hardest routes to defend against that coverage.
Kind of bugged you about it more in the first couple weeks and all that too. It seems like a little less shuffling on the offensive line, but there's still some shuffling. Do you feel like you're getting to the point where there is starting to kind of lock in a little bit more of a firm 5, or what?
Well, I think certainly we have a clear starting 5. I think we started the same 5 all 4 games.
Yeah.
So I think we have a clear starting 5, but I believe in really all positions that if you have a guy who's really, really close and there's not a huge separation, you want to get those guys involved. So we're getting Nev involved, we're getting Jamar involved. Both those guys are doing a solid job. And I think we got to keep improving, especially in the run game, our strain and our effort in the O-line. Again, I thought that was one of the issues early in the game, that we got out-tempoed, and particularly when they're stacking the box. I mean, you have to, just covering. If you have a late box, sometimes covering guys up is enough to slip through. When it's a heavy box, you got to displace guys, because if there's just narrow creases and they have an extra guy coming to fill it, you have nothing. So you got to really displace guys and strain to get big movement, so that there's more room for the back to make the extra guy miss. So, and I think that's something that we can use to hopefully motivate guys. We had a few different rotations. Malik went into guard a little bit to get Nev in and keep Malik in the game, and we got to keep finding that right mix where guys can play to their maximum effort and not get worn out, so they're not finishing blocks or straining like they need to.
Jaden and CJ didn't play. I know CJ's been dealing with kind of a head thing or whatever, but is Jaden on track to return?
Jaden is going to be out. We'll have our injury report come out tomorrow, but Jaden's going to need a surgery.
Okay, so is that season-ending or?
Season-ending surgery on Jaden Sherrill.
Okay, and
Who's the other guy yesterday?
CJ Johnson.
We're hoping to get CJ back, but I think it's probably doubtful for this week.
And then I think I watching the broadcast back, I think I saw John Johnson leave or something. Is he on track to return, or is there what's going on there?
I think he'll be okay. He's a little, wasn't able to do much yesterday, but hope he'll be back today.
And then is Brawley still on track to return at some point this season?
We expect him to.
Anybody else? Going once, going twice?
Are you pulling for one of the baseball playoffs?
Cubs, go Cubs.
You should have known that.